Hello, I am Mantastic and Fantastic. And today I'm going to be talking about the Monster Hunter collab that is returning to North America on Monday. So, the Monster Hunter collab was one of the most highly anticipated collaborations to ever come to Puzzle & Dragons, and its first inception, it was incredibly powerful, but unfortunately it was very top-heavy, and while that is great if you're able to actually roll the highest rarity cards, it does no good when you are like an average individual who has average luck. And for the most part, how I evaluate a collaboration's overall strength is the value they have at the bottom. So this image here you see on the screen is taken from Pad X from the first inception, and these were the approximate rolling rates from 4,770 rolls from Japan. And 76% are 5 stars. So you obviously have to think, well, most of the time I'm going to get a 5 star. So if there is value at the 5 star level, it is worth rolling in. And with that being said, Monster Hunter has actually kind of fallen a bit behind compared to other high value collaborations or luxurious 10-stone events. Because, for example, Heroine and Dragonbound Dragon Caller are also 10-stone events, but Dragonbound Dragon Caller has some of the best value of any collab or seasonal event that at their lowest rarity, because almost like 3 out of the 6 5 stars are incredibly powerful, and that's very important because you want to have enough value because that is the card you are going to be rolling. So they have added several new monsters, 2 in each of the rarity sets, but unfortunately it hasn't really changed much of the rankings. For the most part, it's still the 7 stars that are at the very top, and the new cards do make an appearance, but again, it's still incredibly top-heavy collaboration, unfortunately. So I use an S through D ranking system, and before I jump into the meat of the article itself, I want to talk a bit about assist evolutions. So assist evolutions are a relatively new type of evolution in which a card utilizes a Jewel of Creation and they gain like this weapon assist form. So the way it works is if you choose a brand new base monster and equip the assist evolution as on top of them through skill inheritance, they will then obviously gain the assisting monster's base active skill or the inherited active skill, and then you will have bonus awakenings transferred over. Now, we want to have these bonus awakenings be as powerful as possible, and for the most part, Rose and Orb Enhances, they don't really accomplish that much for your team. But on the other hand, stat transfers could be quite meaningful because if they have enough stat transfers added on top of it, they can provide significant bulk. But in that same train of thought, a lot of assist evolutions have poor active skills. And if that is the case for any of your cards and you want to use them as an assist evolution, it may be advantageous to actually leave the assist evolution unskilled. Because, for example, let's say there are 14 turns to charge up unskilled and 9 turns when they're skilled up. If your base card is 10 turns, you have a 24 or 23 turn window of opportunity. Between 10 and 23, you have 13 turns of opportunity to actually use the base monster's skill before it caps out. But if you use the max skilled version, you only have 8 turns worth of playing around with. So depending on how strong that assist inherit is, you may or may not actually want to skill up the assist evolution if the assist evolution is the stronger option for your card. Now, in terms of like overall power and potency, things that are more unusual. So like a TPA can be quite meaningful. Stats are good. Killers are usually the best type of best type of awakening to transfer over. So let's look at all the cards. So all the 7-star cards technically sell for 75,000 monster points, but please don't. So Amatsu is the first one, and Amatsu is one of the older 7-star cards, and they are still incredibly powerful. They have 9,046 base health along with 1,250 weighted stats. So right away, you've got an incredible powerhouse monster that is still at the very top in terms of weighted stats, even many months after its initial debut. Furthermore, Amatsu has double 7 combo and a single follow-up attack awakening. And that basically enables them to deal massive amounts of damage and tank large amounts of punishment. And they tend to be an all-star sub on the vast majority of teams currently available because follow-up attack is the most efficient way to deal with resolve spawns, and the massive health you can't really go wrong with. So all in all, Amatsu is incredibly powerful. Like, they still retain their level of prowess. Their active skill unlocks orbs, which is beneficial in certain endgame content, but you also generate hard orbs at the same time, so you have enough to hopefully make your follow-up attack and have a 4 elemental board to play around with, which should be a little easier to maximize your combo count. Now, the only main drawback is that they did gain an assist evolution, but the assist evolution means they lose all those sexy awakenings, and their active skill wasn't that great. It's like average or so to begin with, so I strongly advise you don't make Amatsu the assist evolution, unless you have like too many of them, which if that's the case, then you really could probably do what you wanted. Diablos. So Diablos is the other all-star card from this collaboration, and Diablos has the ability to make a 7x6 board, but retains the highest multiplier for any 7x6 leader. So you get 8.5 times damage and a 25% damage reduction when you make 8 or more combos. Now, that is normally a challenge to accomplish on 6x5, but when you're playing on a 7x6 board, you have a total of 42 or 12 more orbs for more potential combos than a regular 6x5 board. So it should be quite easy to a certain extent to hit those 8 combos to trigger your multiplier. And the best part about Diablos is he pairs with other leaders. You don't need to have double Diablos. In fact, double Diablos is not that effective because you're kind of capping your damage out, as well as having 2 base active skills that take too long to charge up. So for the most part, Anubis tends to be his best pairing because you gain a significantly higher damage cap, as well as the consistency Anubis needs, the damage mitigation to help mitigate preemptives, and overall, it's just an amazing card to have. But the thing is, if you're like myself, I just pair of Diablo's friends. I don't even have to worry about actually rolling him myself. So in theory, all you really need to roll is Amatsu. You can piggyback off of Diablos. Now, the biggest drawback of Diablos is the fact that his active skill is so situational and takes far too long to charge up, because it is a 20% true gravity, which means you're able to do exactly 20% of the boss's health. So that means if they're below 20% health, you actually execute and kill them. So in theory, 5 Diabloses kills a boss. But the thing is, we don't really need that. We have better options like Zeus Verse and Hera Nyx. So basically what you could do is say do a Zeus and Hera and then 2 Hera Nyxes and everything's dead. That's pretty good too. Like, you don't need the Diablos really. So it's too situational, and it usually just kind of sits there in your team. You don't actually utilize the active skill, and it kind of goes to waste. I guess it's kind of like the drawback of having such a great leader skill and being so universally available. And then the same train of thought applies for their assist evolution. You're losing Diablos. Just don't do it. Next is a card whose name I cannot pronounce, and they are a new 7-star card. And when I heard that they're giving out 2 new 7 stars, I was a little scared and skeptical because I don't like the unhealthy approach Gung Ho was taking, that they are making 6-star Godfest exclusives and rare collab rolls the most powerful cards available in the game. It makes sense that they are more powerful because they are more rare, but we're getting to the point where it's so challenging for regular Pantheon cards or 5-star Godfest exclusives to even keep up whatsoever, and it's getting to the point where it's challenging to progress further and further, because even if you're skilled, you don't even have the cards to do so because they have like a 1% or less than 1% chance of rolling. But with that being said, I'm a little relieved to a certain extent that this person here was not as overwhelmingly powerful as Amatsu and Diablos. It wasn't like a key card you had to own in order to progress through the game so much further. It's going to be nice, but it's not mandatory. So what they do is they actually have the super time extent and super skill boost awakening, and that basically allows them to have 9 awakenings like they have here, but they actually have more because technically that super skill boost is 2 skill boosts and that super time extent is like 2 time extent. So they basically have 11 awakenings worth of power, but those 3 enhanced dark orbs kind of go to waste at the same time. So it's kind of like, yes, I gained, but yes, I didn't. Hard to say. But their claim to fame is going to be their active skill combined with their bind immunity and follow-up attack awakening. So their active skill generates a column of dark and a column of hard orbs on the outermost columns. And that is important because unlike something like Mel, who generates a column of hard orbs second from the right, you actually have those 5 orbs or 6 orbs in 7x6 that kind of are cut off and kind of almost go to waste. So by spawning the columns on the outside rows, it makes it easier to actually form your combos. It makes it harder to make a cross, but cross teams are kind of falling out of favor. So this is actually a great active skill because you instantly have your follow-up attack, and then you have 5 dark orbs which you can play around with. But that is quite helpful for the most part. And This is why they're going to be quite a useful card to own, because they've got a great built-in follow-up attack mechanic. But the biggest drawback is they don't have any powerful damage awakenings, because we compare them to other stellar follow-up attack options like Amatsu, Scald, Cotton, Cotton, and Amatsu and Scald. Like, they all have at least 2 7-combo awakenings. And those 7-combo awakenings just do so much damage. And the fact that this card does not have it is going to make it challenging to actually have them keep up and actually be utilized on your teams. Maybe if you needed a Dark card that had follow-up attack, this is a good option, because Dark is lacking follow-up attack options. But the thing is, it's actually not that powerful overall. Like, it doesn't hit hard enough, unfortunately. And like I said, those enhanced Dark Orb Awakenings do go to waste. In terms of their assist evolution, I can't find information on it, but it may have value or merit if you don't plan to use them ever as a sub, because you just have better follow-up attack options available. That's the main issue. Like, to use something as a sub nowadays, you need to have them excel so much better than anything else available. Otherwise, it's just hard to. And this card here, they just don't have enough damage overall, I feel. Next is card again, whose name I can't pronounce, but they also have a Fujin style active skill, and a Fujin style active skill makes it so you void any damage absorption ability. So that includes, but not limited to, Sopdet, Vishnu, Hera Dragon. You can basically use their active and counteract that entire absorb mechanic. And that can be quite powerful for farming purposes or consistency, because you can use teams that do not have damage control and you can just blast your way through it. Now, the thing is, it is a Fujin style active skill, so we have to look at what is their collateral benefit. Fujin gives a turn of haste and the absorb void for 19 turn cooldown. Zinogre has a 24 turn cooldown, the Fujin absorb break, and the ability to change the board to fire, water, wood, light, and dark. So you have a light Kali style board changer with a Fujin absorb void. Now, when do we need this type of board changer? Not really. Like, rainbow teams have fallen out of favor, and because you're not even producing hard orbs, you can't heal and deal damage, and that's a big drawback. This is why, like, tri-elemental boards like, say, Saria, Ryune are so powerful, because they actually give you the hard orbs for follow attack, for healing, and the damaging orbs alongside of it. But because you're not spawning that here, you also have 5 elements. It's hard to concentrate your damage. So this is actually, in my opinion, one of the more lackluster active skills that have the Fujin style component. Now, perhaps as a saving grace, they do have a skill charge awakening, which means if you match rainbow colors, you charge up the active skill a little faster because they have self haste. Now, the problem is you have to use them as a sub, and it's not to say they're a bad sub. They're similar to Fujin in that they have the time extends, they have the skill charge, and the 7-combo awakening, as well as bind immunity. So you can definitely use them as a sub, and you will be able to charge their active skill quickly. And if you're using cards like, say, Blue Hunter or Anubis, it's not too difficult to actually have built-in rainbow teams through sub-elements, because then you can charge the active skill up faster. But if we're looking at a Fujin-style active that has skill charge, Leona from King of Fighters is quite stronger, much stronger overall, because they have 4 killer awakenings. So this person here, this creature here, it is strong, but it's not as strong as the other options that are currently available outside the Bragg Machine, or outside of the Monster Hunter collab. So I feel like they're a little weaker for the most part overall. Now, they do have an assist evolution, but I would strongly advise against it, because they work better as a sub than as an inherit. Because as an inherit, it's going to take almost too long to charge up. But as a sub, at least with skill charge, you can manage that 24 turn cooldown, because that is a very lengthy cooldown. Now, next are 6-star base cards. So we're going to go through them all. Like, Kirin is an older card, and they have good weighted stats, which is kind of the trend for all Monster Hunter cards. But they don't have any TPA or 7-combo awakenings to take advantage of their naturally high base attack. But fortunately, they play very similar to a light Mary in that they are a light row team with no Skyfalls. However, unlike Mary, they are bind immune, and their active skill, while worse for like playing through like challenging content, is actually better for speed farming, because you get a row of light orbs at the top. So spawning light orbs at the top in a row is much better than the bottom, because you can save orbs at the bottom and match away and just have that nice row at the top. So you save your orbs, but you also can farm things quickly, because even though 6 connected light orbs is 56 times damage, you probably or hopefully have enough enhanced row awakenings to take advantage of that lower multiplier, and it can work. And we saw a lot of value for Kieran for those 120 or 90-second descend challenges that happened like several months ago. So they do have applications for speed farming, but they're a little niche. But again, it is something that is useful and interesting for the most part to have. Now, their assist evolution does give them 3 light row awakenings, and obviously you lose this speed farming leader, but it could potentially help Yogg teams, because if you need a little bit more damage, the 3 extra light rows can help push your damage over the top, so to speak, because that's an extra 30%. So it might help, but that's usually only relegated to Cosmic Trinity farming. So again, you may or may not really need that for the most part. Rathalos is another older card, and they create 6 fire orbs at random along with enhancing fire orbs. But mono fire teams don't really exist, and something like Sonata is much more reliable and better for combo synergy, as well as keeping your board more combo oriented. So they struggle to really find a true home, and their assist evolution does give 4 enhanced fire orbs, and it's probably better to use them in their assist evolution if you're playing a mono fire team. But again, it's quite niche and a little lackluster overall. Glavenus still has that same follow-up attack awakening, but they have lost ground and traction in terms of value because we have more options of follow-up attacks, so you don't have to run Glavenus to actually resolve bosses. Now, their active skill is a little awkward to use as a sub or inherit now, because the little lengthly doesn't really help your team overall. And their leader skill, again, is just too awkward to really utilize. It wasn't that good back then. It's not that good right now. But in their assist evolution, they do have some interesting points, because they do provide 2 enhanced material killer awakenings. And this basically enables them to deal 9 times damage against anything that has that typing. So the most notable one is the pies, say like arenas or Colosseum. And that 6 million defense will be shredded like butter. Obviously, we don't really need that for the most part, but it does provide value if you are doing certain challenges that have very high defense and you want to deal large amounts of damage. So as an assist evolution, it probably has more value. Blue Dragon, whose name I cannot pronounce, has Co-op Boost Awakening, which is good for 50% more stats, but they don't really have much use for the most part as a sub. Their active skill allows you to gain significantly more recovery, as well as in Heart Orbs Skyfalling more likely for 6 turns. But again, that type of stalling technically makes it hard for you to die, but we rather use a shield or delay, or just one-shot it. So this type of stalling is not really practical nowadays, so it's just lackluster. And if we are to look at their assist evolution, it's probably the way to go, because they give the team recovery the team recovery awakening, as well as health and attack stat boost modifiers. So you are increasing the stats of the card receiving this assist, but again, because their base active skill is kind of weird, I would strongly recommend you don't actually skill them up if you're planning to use them as an assist evolution. Valfalk kind of feels like Light Cali with a true damage component, but again, Light Cali board changers we really don't like or need at this point in time, because we want those hard orbs. As a leader, they're kind of interesting because they do have 4 times health and 400 times attack for dragon types when you match fire, water, wood, light, and dark orbs. So that is technically synergistic with their active skill. And in theory, in dungeons where there is no time extend or no awakenings available, Valfalk does do quite well, because you already are stuck with 4 seconds. So why not just utilize something that has a massive multiplier and a reasonably low combo count to achieve that? In their assist evolution, they do actually donate a single TPA, which can be useful, because a card that has, say, a couple already can have their damage significantly boosted. But the 5 elemental board without hearts is a little awkward. True damage, sure, it could be cool, but again, it's just hard to really justify their usage overall. Legiana is a new 6-star card in the Monster Hunter Collab, and they have 3 enhanced team health awakenings, and that will provide you with 15% more health for your team when you use them as a sub. So I think that's pretty great. We've seen how Dark Ideal provides large stat boosts for your team, but again, this is a sub with a semi-questionable... No, it has a good active skill, so it is worth running them as a sub potentially, because their active skill provides 4 turns of bind clearing and replacing all the orbs. So replacing all the orbs basically means it's something like Keji, in that any locked orbs or anything that's kind of weird gets instantly removed and a brand new board falls down. The falling down orbs can trigger a match and produce combos, and which will actually charge up the active skills of your whole team, and as well as dealing damage and killing, potentially even killing the floor if you're very lucky. But even if you don't kill the floor and you match one combo, it does not trigger the boss's attack because you never truly finished taking your turn. So it has merits for basically counteracting fully locked boards. So something like, say, 9-guard, who is a terrible spawn in general, you can basically remove the whole board and get a brand new one that hopefully has a follow-up attack built in to counteract their resolve. So it has interesting applications, and the 4-turn bind clearing is useful, and it sounds cool and all to use them as a sub, but maybe they might be better off as an assist evolution. Now, as a leader, they do produce 256 times attack, but the problem is you have to match water, wood, and dark, which not too bad, but then you also have to have 7 or less orbs remaining on the board. So this is basically a glass cannon leader that has an interesting skill cap required, but they have no defensive multiplier, so they can be vulnerable to basically any kind of mechanic. Now, they can be utilized as a no Skyfall fast farming leader, kind of like how you use Raphael. Like you have like Zeus Dios and like a reincarnated Liu Bei or whatever as your partner, and you pop Zeus Dios and then swipe the board. All the orbs are removed, so you have 7 or less. So you do 4 times damage from here with the no Skyfalls, so it can have some applications there. As an assist evolution, I can't find information, but it might be quite powerful to make them as an assist evolution because of the fact that they have a very powerful active skill which may be useful for inheriting around. And then we have Brachy Dios, and they have an interesting active skill because they deal 300 times attack damage to a single target. Now, this actually results in them being a stronger option than Grimjaw for button farming, because Grimjaw is 250 times and they have a health clause multiplier. They have to be low, they have to be at 1 health to work. So you need something to reset your health in order to actually use Grimjaw, whereas Brachy Dios does not have any such restriction. Now, that is quite exciting for obviously those luxurious farming teams, but amusingly enough, they do have awakenings. They have double Devil Killer and 7 combo awakening, and this is actually a very powerful awakening setup. But the problem is, in my opinion, is that their active skill encourages you to inherit them and onto something with the co-op boost awakening for the 50% more stats, so they're the biggest button you possibly could have. But then they want to have powerful awakenings to function on an end game team, but the active skill is so lackluster for end game content, not for farming, but for pushing through challenging level 10s and so forth. And what gets worse is that they have an 18 turn cooldown. Grimjaw had only 11, and that is problematic because if you inherit it, you probably could get enough skill boost to actually make use of it, but as a sub on a team, you're going to struggle to actually pass that active skill threshold and then charge up your inherit on top of that. It's not really going to happen. So you're basically using a sub who has no active skill on your team, and that could be challenging for the most part. So it's kind of like you're trying to do 2 different things, but you're excelling to a certain extent, but not really at the same time. Now, if we look at their assist evolution, what we really want from them is more damage, because they have great weighted stats. They will transfer a boatload over to a light base card, especially if that co-op boost awakening. But what we really want to look for in their assist evolution is the plus 100 damage they give, plus 100 attack they give from that one awakening. And that plus 100 attack can be significant. It can allow the button to do that much more damage. So if I think about this card from like super endgame content for players who have every card in the game, it might be better to have them as their assist evolution because it makes their button do just that much more damage. It seems like such a waste, but again, like I said, it's challenging to really justify their usage on an endgame team because you're carrying a very lengthy active skill that's not accomplishing that much. And when you think about it, the Dragon-Bound Dragon Collar event, you can use something like Chazelle. And Chazelle has 3 Devil Killers, so Chazelle does this job better at the same time with a super short cooldown. So it's kind of awkward. He's trying to do too many things. So I feel like the assist evolution might be better for those kinds of players. Now we come to the 5-star cards, and all the 5-star cards sell for 15,000 monster points and have over 1,000 weighted stats. So this is quite strong, but remember, don't sell a card if it's the first one you have. It's usually good to keep at least one of everything in case they get buffed. So Wrathion has weighted stats, cool, and he has a delay in poison, which is good before follow-up attack existed, but right now follow-up attack is just so much better, and you really don't need to have it unless you're looking for a wood card to inherit onto something with wood to transfer stats and have a delay or poison. And that's why I would probably encourage you to make his assist evolution, because they do have 3 poison resist awakenings, so they have 60% protection, can be situationally useful against certain spawns. Tigrex is still interesting because they do produce a board of fire, wood, and jammers. So jammer teams like Fenrir Viz are not as much of a meme as they used to be. They can clear endgame content. So Tigrex can have merits, but the problem is he spawns color orbs that are not synergistic to Fenrir Viz, which is a little awkward. Because if you have light devils on your team, it's not going to help out. But again, you get a board of jammers. But one thing to keep in mind is if you have another board orb changer combo, it can be valuable. Because when you think about it, they have 3 elements. They do fire, jammer, wood. And if you have something like Antares or Spica, you can convert the jammers into their primary color to have 2/3 optimal boards for burst damage. And Tigrex only has a 7-turn base cooldown. So it's the shortest base cooldown for a tri-elemental board. And that can have some merits. So if you're planning to use them as an inherit, I'm not sure why you really would, but their assist evolution does give 3 attack awakenings, so maybe that has merit. But again, it's kind of weird. And there should be C. I'm not sure why this is showing B. I can't say their name. They make a column of dark orbs on a 7-turn cooldown of haste. Cool. It's useful for cross teams like Aizen, but Aizen's getting a bit outdated for the most part. And yes, they have guard break, but it's going to be challenging to really utilize them on a team. So they're just kind of lackluster. Their assist evolution does give 3 blind resist awakenings, so that can be good. But where that's most powerful and potent is when you face spawns that give you the super darkened orbs that make the orbs dark for a prolonged period of time, and you have to match them away. So being able to resist these most of the time can be invaluable in that niche situation. So I would encourage them to go for the assist evolution. Gammoth is another older card that was lackluster as well at the same time. It gives you a single turn delay, but it spawns wood, water, and dark orbs. Kind of weird. Doesn't really help any team. Maybe Karen as a partner. So as their assist evolution, it's probably best to make them as an assist evolution because they will heavily transfer lots of health over, as well as having the enhanced health awakenings. So you are going to transfer a healthy amount of stats to blue cards, but then you have kind of a weirdish active skill. So if you do, I recommend leaving him unskilled. Astalos has massive base attack and 3 TPAs. But again, TPA cards are just less desirable for the most part, so we don't really want to utilize them as a sub that much. But the thing is, they actually have a very powerful active skill. They have 2 turns of delay as well as 2 turns of enhanced light skyfalls. So those skyfalls can be meaningful for the types of teams you may run, but the 2 turns of delay is nothing to really laugh at much because it is still a nice secondary perk, this light skyfalls. And this is an active skill you probably want to inherit around on your team. So it is usually beneficial to go for his assist evolution because he does grant you awoken material, enhanced killer, and redeemable material killer awakenings. And that can be meaningful because that will allow you to have 3 times damage against those spawns, so it can help you save an active skill. It's obviously not as powerful as having 2 of the same kind because you stack for 9 times, but this can help. Like those pre-draws who have 10 million defense suddenly have 3.3 million, so you might be able to burst through with this active skill while having a nice delaying component alongside of it. Now we come to Barioth, who is the strongest 5-star in this collab in my opinion, because not just because of their awakenings, but it's because of their active skill and how they work as an assist evolution. Because they have a similar active skill to Weld from the Dragonbound Dragon Caller event, in that you produce a tri-elemental board with hearts. In this case here, it's water, light, and heal orbs, and you get 2 turns of delay on a 14-turn cooldown. So this is a multi-purpose active, and it has a good color for a lot of teams. Blue hunters like blue, obviously Yogs likes Yogg, but you get the delaying component as well. So it can be quite useful to have as an inherit. So that's why we're going to look at their assist evolution. And their assist evolution gives you 3 stat modifying awakenings, which will give you 400 recovery and 100 attack. And it's that 400 recovery that is massive. Like, if you think about it, like, most cards don't even, like some cards don't even have 400 base recovery, and by transferring that much over, you're contributing so much stats overall. So as an assist evolution, I would make them almost every single time because that's a healthy amount of stats, and it's even better when it's transferred onto something that is blue. Palumu is the other 5-star card in this collab that's been newly released, and they also have a tri-elemental board changer of Hearts, Dark, and Water Orb, so good for Dark Athena if you want. But their secondary benefit's a little different. They provide 1.5 times orb movement time for 2 seconds. So yes, you can think orb movement time is great, but for the most part, most teams have enough orb movement time built in already, so we don't really need to have that much more. Perhaps if you are, I guess, running Dark Athena and you really want more movement time, this can be a weird way to do so, and even utilizing them as a sub if you really want those time extends. But the thing is, it's less valuable, I'd say, than a delay, unless you're fighting a dungeon where you need to have a time extent overriding with a beneficial effect alongside of it. But they are an interesting card, not only for the weirdly disturbing artwork, which is apparently a ball of fur or fluff, according to my readers, but they have 2 healer killer awakenings, so they can deal 9 times damage to healer spawns. But the thing is, those are not really that common. We don't really need to have this for any point. And for the most part, you probably could find other killer combinations to utilize against that card, because for the most part, most bosses have more than one type. Like, they're not just healers. They're like healers plus god, or healer plus like devil, healer plus dragon. Like, it goes on and on. So if you use the Dragonbound Dragon Collar cards, which have 3 killers, one of those is probably going to be effective against that boss. So the actual need to utilize this weird ball of fluff is kind of a little lower, I feel, and also being kind of 2 unusual awakenings. And at this point in time, I can't find information on their assist evolution, but you may want to just keep them for the double healer killer awakenings because it's quite unique. So, in conclusion, the Monster Hunter collab does definitely put the dragons back into Puzzles and Dragons, but it does cost 10 magic stones per pull. And comparing to its first inception, it has less value overall because yes, they added in new cards, but it's only giving you 1 good 5-star. And to be fair, a lot of the older cards are becoming power creep to a certain extent. They didn't receive that many buffs. They're just not as strong as they used to be. So things are just starting to fall and slip behind, so to speak. So it is still a powerful collab, but the problem is it's very top heavy. Now, with that in mind, I am looking forward to Gung Ho releasing the rolling rates, because I'd be truly interested to see if the 7-star cards have like a less than 1% hit rate chance, and how would that actually affect players rolling. So perhaps on the bright side, because they have to release the rolling rates, it'll keep them a bit more honest and give us hopefully maybe better chances. But we shall see if it is an improvement from the long article data from Pad X. So let me know what you think about this collab in the comments below. Do you plan on rolling? And if so, what do you hope to roll? Hopefully you all have a fantastic day. I wish you all the best of luck in your own pad adventures, and happy puzzling.